I believe in advertising through doing, and I believe in teaching through showing. So today I'm gonna take you guys behind the scenes on this menu photo shoot for a dessert restaurant, talk you through how I created these dynamic shots using just a single light, the 8600 Pro. And if you stick around till the end, I'll share my secrets on how you can book clients just like this on a consistent basis, right where you live. Let's get into it. So here's the spot. I won't bore you too much with intro, but rather get straight into what I do best, complain. And I'm gonna air out some grievances about the lighting here and the people that I had to fight with for the entirety of today's shoot, as if that's the only complaint I have. You can see I'm trying to set up in a way that my modifiers create a little shade onto the table from the bright windows in the back, that entranceway. As you know by now, if you've been following along on my Learn to Light series, I like to start every shoot with a completely black frame, or at least as close to it as possible. The 8600 works for the majority of scenarios, especially indoors. I just sometimes run across an issue where I'll be forced to shoot directly under an always-on security light, or the restaurant has 24 pot lights along the ceiling that just creates all these little orange dots on the silverware and any reflective surface. Thankfully, this area I had to shoot in was large enough that I chose a spot that was away from any overhead lights, and like I said, I put my light in a way to flag out that front entranceway to minimize any reflections. None of which helped to really keep bystanders away. I'm always happy to talk shop, but I don't know, maybe this one lady was just rubbing me the wrong way. She kept walking back and forth and almost tripping over my stuff and dropping a comment about how she wants to help, but she can't. And I guess she'd want to eat all of them or something, as if I would even let her do that. I don't know. It's just always extra time. And time for these shoots, I try to not award it. I'll dive a little bit more about how I book these shoots in a little bit, but between the client and the agency, I'm not left with a whole lot from these sets. I try to be as streamlined as possible so I can get in, get out, and submit my final images all within like 2-3 hours. That way it feels a little bit more financially worth it for me. But that means I need a system. I need control over the situation, even though my situation changes in every restaurant. But that first layer of control starts with a black frame. I really want to drive this point across because in my mind, nothing makes you feel more like an artist than literally painting a scene with light. You choose the direction, the intensity, specularity, whether it's hard or soft light. The universe that is your next shot is entirely up to you, which is kind of cool. I love that about photography. I love getting to put thoughts into reality, and in this case, I was lucky enough to get paid for it. I just received some new props from PropFace that I really wanted to try out. They're these fairly oversized resin boards over here, and they're like a 1/4 inch thick. Good enough for a backdrop or a surface, and I really wanted to use them as plates, kind of like for the food. I feel I always struggle shooting small, like uncomplicated menu items on the dishware that these restaurants usually use, kind of like a small food in a big plate type vibe. So I was excited to use these boards on top of my backdrops to create like a pop of color and also a little platform for the food to sit on. I can't really get that effect from just stacking 2 pieces of paper or 2 backdrops together. But looking back at the shots I got from this day, I am pretty happy with how these boards turned out. Full disclosure, PropFace did send me these for free, but I've been using their products long before that they sponsored me. And you guys know that I'm no stranger to complaining if I have an issue with something. But these really are fantastic. They're really great. I love the pastel tones on them. I feel like a good chunk of my portfolio is very bright, bold colors, and I want to try to tone it down a little bit for next year and go slightly muted and pastel. I don't know, we'll see how it turns out. These are just client images, but I've been shooting so much this year, I feel like I haven't really shot as many test and spec shoots, but it's all right though. Last year was great, and this is just what it's like when you market the work that you already have, rather than focusing on constantly creating new stuff. Trust me, creating is the fun part, and I love getting to do it, but this shooting someone else's brief, making someone else happy, is what keeps the lights on in my house. Maybe if you run a wedding photography company, you can create spec shoots and delegate all your contracts to hired hands to shoot your actual bookings. But at this point in my commercial photography career, I'm still wearing a bunch of hats, and I have to assume a majority of you do as well. Anyway, I get to have a little bit of creativity when it comes to the backgrounds and the lighting that I get to choose from for these shoots. And I guess I went with a sideways envelope shape. I don't know, do you guys like it? A good majority of my decision making for these shoots, again, just boils down to control and consistency. I want to be able to set up my lighting, my camera, have a scene ready to accommodate the majority of the menu, and fire off each shot real quick once I'm set up. I shot all these on my 33mm and cropped in a little bit, rather than being further away with my 80mm. I figured it would be much more manageable to shoot all the different sized items at the same focal length so that the compression would feel more consistent from one shot to the next. It's important when you're working as a photographer to start thinking about streamlining your decisions and freeing up some mental bandwidth. Look for patterns in your shoots and where you can make little changes that will greatly affect your workflow. I think it was at least 3 or 4 times the owners of this restaurant mentioned specifically on this shoot how they've worked with another photographer previously that took hours and hours to shoot the same menu. And they weren't even happy with the results. All I can think of is how much he's just shooting himself in the foot. If you're spending 2 or 3 times longer than you need to create the art that you're creating, then your hourly wage is cut in half, if not worse. I know we don't all want to think of money purely when it comes to this photography thing, but money is not the goal. The goal is freedom. The goal is free time to be lazy and skate. Money is the tool that allows us to do that. As much as possible, I try to shoot the images for these shoots as in camera as possible. No post-production. All right, here comes the reflectors. I know this guy is pretty janky, but I knew I would be shooting some glossy desserts and brioche bun burgers. So I grabbed some tinfoil and wrapped it on the end of this little foam card to kind of create a more specular highlight. I'll break it down in just a sec, but I love how the addition of this tiny little reflector can really turn a simple single light source into a dynamic ad worthy of a Burger King commercial, shy of maybe some expert food styling. But for a bajillionth of the budget in a millionth of the time, I think it turned out pretty good. Could I do more? Sure, I'd love to, but I don't have a full day to create one burger image. I need to get in, get out, shoot something good enough. I can worry about being perfect for my own portfolio. For this, it's just in and out. Let's not lose sight of that, guys. We're working photographers. We're here to supply a service. These clients, especially at this budget, they don't understand the nuances between a $500 photo and a $50,000 photo. So don't bother trying to flex every piece of knowledge that you have just to impress some customers that won't even notice. Focus that energy on your own portfolio and create something worthwhile that you can show off to the agencies that will notice those nuances. And speaking of nuances, I used my Mola beauty dish for these shots, and honestly, it was mostly because I never use it. It's so hard to travel with, but I was getting tired of just seeing it as a prop in the background of these shoots, so I went and used it. I have the 2 diffusers in it, the opal one and the little gridded one, and the diffusion sock on top of it as well. So it's super soft, but I still kind of wanted a softer wrap after I saw what it was giving me. I was a little bummed I didn't bring my full-size scrim because for the hero shot of this shoot, I felt like my light source wasn't really big enough, but it's all right. I think of how portable this little 5-in-1 reflector is. It did a great job at adding an extra layer of diffusion for these shots. You might prefer something like hard light, but I've been trying to experiment a little bit more with creating very directional soft light, and I'm enjoying the results. I wanted very soft but directional light, something to give shape and leave the food appetizing. I really like how some of these catch lights turned out when the food was kind of glossy, like here on this strawberry jelly from the cookie. Love that. Yeah, I think I have a few shots here where I was moving the aluminum foil reflector around to get the right shine on these burgers, so you can really see how much these little changes affect the shot. How do you guys like them, by the way? Between the first and the last frame for this entire shoot, I was there for 45 minutes. Not bad. Why rush through a client? I don't want them to feel like their shoot isn't special to me and I won't create something unique for them. I always will, and I'm always blessed to have a camera in my hands. But I know that if I spend a full day working on this assignment, it's at least a half day I can't spend on another assignment. So not only does that pay me less, but it even costs me money. To get shoots like these in your own city, you have to start by fostering those genuine relationships. And when the opportunity arises, you just ask. You have to be the name in your area that everyone hears when they say they need a photographer. Reach out to every restaurant with a customized email, like a cover letter as if you're applying to work for them. Be courteous, but be relentless. You have to check your ego when it comes to cold calling. Don't expect the world, and better yet, one of my biggest pieces of advice when it comes to emailing or calling clients is to call or email a second time. You'd be surprised how many times a hello again really works wonders at getting you a response because you tap into a little bit of that guilt of them ignoring your message in the first place or just feeling like they missed out on something because they missed it the first time. I have a list of every restaurant, every bar, every food truck in town, and I regularly update it to keep track of the hundreds of potential clients. You don't need 365 clients to round out your year. You need 12. Believe in the process and have a portfolio to show for it. It's crazy how you'll land one and then they'll recommend you to all of their friends, and though you only booked one client yourself, that advertising through doing is what leads you to more and more jobs once again. That's a pretty good full circle. I'll leave it at that. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.